Hey everybody, this is for Brian, sort of a video response to Bryan Cain's video about tolerance. And I want to start out, first of all, I agree wholeheartedly that if we're going to use the term tolerance as this, political campaign to have everyone be accepted and, don't make fun of handicapped people and, accept people for being sexually different than you, what I mean by sexually different, transgendered, non-conventional heterosexual relationships. Um, excuse me. Basically, I don't have much to disagree with Brian here. I agree pretty wholeheartedly. Like I said, just a couple things that I wanted to say here. One is that you have to is that I think that there's a problem when we sit here and just talk about, well, you have to accept that people think this way. Yeah, you should accept it, but what does that really mean? Does that mean that all thought and demonstrational action against these kind of thought processes should quit? Does that mean that people who are against this opposition of gay rights, if you're against people opposing gay rights, does that mean you should just accept them? You should just accept the people that are against gay rights, even though you yourself are for gay rights? You yourself are for gay rights. Well, how do you promote gay rights but at the same time completely tolerate the opposite side who wants to deny gay rights? How do you do that? How do you tolerate something when you're actually actively trying to attack it? I don't see that it's possible. So I don't see how. I feel like the idea is, one, just a little bit too utopic, because in order to be tolerant of something, you kind of have to take either a less passionate stance against it, to the point that this upsetting issue no longer upsets you because you've distanced yourself from it. You've looked at it in a way that it doesn't bother you anymore. Okay, but here's the real thing. I just did a video about how I hate the term. Well, okay, I didn't say hate in that video. Why should I say hate now? I don't hate it, but how not I'm not a fan of the term polyglot. Well, I'm also not a fan of the word tolerance. Just let me blow my nose real quick. This is ridiculous. No editing here, folks. Live, uncut. All right. So I don't like the word tolerance either. Now, this isn't my own idea. I took it from Gregory Bateson's Steps to the Ecology of the Mind. His daughter, it's a conversation between a daughter and a father, and the daughter talks about how in school they're all taught to be tolerant, and the father just goes off. He just goes on a rant about how that's ridiculous because while tolerance isn't a bad thing, the mentality behind tolerance is idiotic. Because it basically says, don't worry what everybody else is doing, just accept it. I'm sorry, but that turns us into non-contemplative, simply accepting beings, which allows us to become even bigger pawns, even bigger tools of the people above us than we already are. Because now they can tell us. I mean, the more the tolerance gets instilled into a way of thinking, the more abnormal or even amoral behavior has to become accepted, and I think Brian's video is in a way proof of that. Is that with this mentality of tolerance has been extended so far that we even have to accept and tolerate the bad things. But here's the problem. I just called it a bad thing. No, there are people calling gay rights a bad thing. Okay, so to go back to Brian's point, bad is subjective, and so to call it this is it's okay to tolerate gay people, but it's not okay to tolerate racists. Well, there is definitely a double standard going on there. However, this mentality of tolerance, oh, we should just tolerate them because people are all different. Well, where do you draw the line? This guy raped 17 children and butchered 5 of them. We need to tolerate that because those things are necessary to exist in this society. You're not going to get any disagreement from me there. I'm a fundamentalist. In terms of, I believe that you need a top and a bottom. You can't have everybody be at the same level. You know, the poor people, the vagrants are just as important to society as the most rich people, and the criminals are just as important as those who don't break the law. Because if we didn't have criminals breaking the law, then no one would feel good about themselves for not breaking the law, right? So it's all necessary. So in that sense, I do tolerate it. However, I just feel like the word tolerate, it breeds this generation of non-thinking individuals, which we are already so close to anyway, in so many different aspects, so many different perspectives, that I feel like using the term tolerance is like, ah, well, I'll just accept it. And you know, I think you should tolerate something once you've spent enough time sitting there thinking about it, contemplating the effects of this and that, and the necessity of this or that. Once you've sat there and reflected about it, then you can tolerate it, okay, if you will. But I think this toleration without a view, this toleration of, oh, to each his own, is to me just, it's almost as equally closed-minded as the thought that, as these bigots or people who discriminate against people based on gender stereotypes and whatnot. Okay, my final point, it's a little bit off. It doesn't quite flow in with the other ones. But if we do say we tolerate everything, where does toleration come into play with the law, right? Because if we have to tolerate a guy who has an idea about the fact that he thinks that white people are better than black people, do we there in turn also have to tolerate his behavior, that all white people get hired and black people don't? If we have to be tolerant of some woman's claim that all gay people are going to go to hell, does that mean we also have to be tolerant of the fact that even though in her community there's only one church of that denomination, and the gay people in that community, there are some gay people in that community that want to go to this church, but they're denied entry to that church due to this? Do we have to tolerate that? Do we have to tolerate that decision? Because if we're not tolerating that decision, we're not actually tolerating the mindset either, right? So are we supposed to just tolerate one and not the other? Because I don't think that's possible. And if we are supposed to tolerate both, well, then where do you draw the moral line? How do you draw the moral line? I don't quite see. All right. Anyway, thanks a lot, Brian, for your video. It was very thought-provoking. It's something I've been talked to with my friends quite often as well. So I'm sure you do. Seems like something this isn't the first time it just popped in your head and you talked about it. So yeah, I just thought I'd see if I couldn't get some more participation coming from the audience on both of our parts. See what people say about these. All right. In case you guys don't know, Bryan Cain and I actually grew up in the same town, so I'm not just responding to some crazy, I mean, he's as crazy as I am, but I'm not responding to just some random YouTube person. Okay, this is a good friend of mine from my childhood. All right, thanks a lot for watching, everybody.